9 experienced hikers set out into the mountains. They had the equipment, the training, the experience. They knew how to survive freezing temperatures. They knew how to navigate dangerous terrain. And yet, every single one of them died. Not during a storm, not in an avalanche, not while climbing a cliff. What makes this story disturbing is what happened before they died. Because sometime during the night, all 9 hikers cut their way out of their own tent and walked into the freezing darkness. More than 60 years later, nobody can say with complete certainty why. This is the mystery of Dyatlov Pass. The year was 1959, February 2nd, 1959. The Ural Mountains, Soviet Union. A group of experienced hikers from the Soviet Union began an expedition through the Ural Mountains. Leading them was a 23-year-old student named Igor Dyatlov. The journey was considered difficult, but the group was highly skilled. Several members had completed demanding expeditions before. This wasn't their first adventure. If anything, they were exactly the kind of people expected to return safely. The plan was simple: cross the mountains, complete the route, return home. Instead, they vanished. As the expected return date passed, concern began to grow. Search teams were eventually sent into the mountains. At first, nobody expected what they were about to find. Then, the tent was discovered, standing alone on a snowy slope, partially covered by snow, abandoned. But something was wrong, very wrong. Investigators noticed large cuts in the fabric. The tent hadn't been sliced open from the outside, it had been cut from the inside. Think about that for a moment. You're inside a tent during one of the coldest nights imaginable. Outside is darkness, freezing wind, deep snow, and yet something convinces you that staying inside is more dangerous than leaving. What could possibly cause that? The footprints made the mystery even stranger. They showed the hikers leaving the tent calmly, not running, not panicking, walking. Some were barefoot, some wore only socks. Others had left behind essential winter clothing. Nobody voluntarily walks into sub-zero temperatures dressed like that, yet that's exactly what happened. The search continued. Soon the first bodies were found beneath a large cedar tree. Evidence suggested some of the hikers had attempted to start a fire, a desperate effort to survive. Others were discovered scattered between the tree and the abandoned tent, almost as if they had tried to make their way back. They never made it. Months later, the remaining bodies were found, and that's when the case became even more unsettling. Several hikers had suffered severe injuries: broken ribs, massive chest trauma, a fractured skull. The force behind some of these injuries appeared enormous, yet there were few external wounds. It was as if the damage had come from an immense pressure rather than a direct attack. Investigators struggled to explain it. Then came another detail. One victim was missing her tongue. Others showed unusual injuries that fueled speculation for decades. Suddenly, this wasn't just a tragedy, it was becoming a mystery. And the theories began. Some believed an avalanche forced the group to flee. Others pointed to secret military testing in the area. There were claims of strange lights seen in the sky around the same time. Some suggested infrasound, a phenomenon capable of triggering intense fear and panic. And of course, there were those who believed something far stranger had happened. Over the years, scientists, investigators, and researchers examined the evidence again and again. Certain theories explained parts of the mystery, but none explained everything. Not perfectly, not completely. And that's why the story refuses to disappear, because the central question remains unanswered. Why did 9 experienced hikers abandon the only shelter they had? Why leave warm clothing behind? Why walk into a freezing wilderness that they knew could kill them? Maybe there was a logical explanation. Maybe there was a chain of events nobody could have predicted. Or maybe the mountains are still holding some of their secrets. For decades, people have argued about what happened on that snowy slope, and perhaps they always will. Because sometimes the most unsettling mysteries aren't the ones hidden in distant oceans or lost somewhere in the sky. Sometimes they're found in a single abandoned tent, cut open from the inside. And 60 years later, the reason why remains buried beneath the snow.